Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. This would be from notes, but this would be kind of rambling, but we will repeat this probably next Sunday in a real organized way. But I'd like to start with this idea of historian, the idea of archivist. This has been a great, it hasn't been a great challenge, but it's been a great thing to get involved in. Evidently, it's been planned for a long time. But if we looked at the options that we had, that no matter what we did, we would be encircled and oppressed and suppressed. Therefore, we knew we would be suppressed and encircled by the system because we had always been, for decades already, encircled by the system and suppressed. So, if I started a certain period, this is almost joking. I don't think I ever told y'all about the fat black man. This is so nice. So, the fat black man, and anybody here would probably be able to relate to the fat black man. The fat black man was really an actor. But the fat black man was a perfect he was a perfect assimilator. Whatever was needed for him to assimilate with you, he would possess that characteristic. If he would have a perfect job where if he was needed in Vegas, if he was needed down in Dixie, wherever he was needed, he could go there because he was piped into a job network that gave him employment. The people like that, they have not only their employment, but they have a petty slush fund, which the government keeps up on real good. I mean, they're not gonna get rich, but if they have to move, if they have to do this, that, and another, all they have to do is push a few digits and the boss man take care of it. They get them on the road, get them in the air, get whatever they need. But I know we did a program with the fat black man. Well, the fat black man, first thing was when we was over on 8th Street, I told the fat black man, look man, I know you're police and all that stuff. And the fat black man busted into you remember when your children would cry and they would, and snot would run out of their nose and stuff? The fat black man, he could pull that off. He was sitting right there in the car. I mean, and so, of course, it don't have no effect on me because I've been doing this so long that I said, well, I was saying to myself, if you're willing to go through all of that, you know what I mean, we'll give him another shot. So I said, well, you go on down to Dixie and start As-Sabiqun. He went down there and fumbled around. And then we had friends in Dixie. So we're still on 8th Street, so they would come up for programs any other time, and they would say, is he with you down there? I said, yeah. He said, well, he ain't teaching, you know, because we'd already come out with As-Sabiqun. He ain't doing that. You know, these were movement people, they were there. He ain't doing that. And I said, oh, okay. Not that I didn't know it, because I already knew. If I didn't call them a tattletale from Jump Street, because of behavior, not because of anything else. So I said, well, and then the fat black man would, if we had some equipment, he would make sure it wouldn't work unless we spent $1 zillion. So it wasn't a zillion, it was only 1,200 and something like that at that time. So we bought a DVD type, whatever it was. He did a few things, and then he just disappeared with the machine and everything. I ain't heard how, he said, I ain't heard how to have of the fat black man. But it's not only him, it's like DC has been very, 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 it's been interesting here. Because either the system forgets or somebody is forgetting and somebody is just not paying attention to Clausewitz's names. Do not, in dealing with your enemy, don't use the same pattern and policy over and over again, or they will adopt to your methods. In other words, basically, don't use a technique over 2 or 3 times, or the people are gonna adjust to that. It's automatic. This is just a rule of war and behavior. Can you imagine boss man using the same basic pattern for over 50 years? Actually, it goes back into Jahiliyyah. With no upgrade, and so you begin to think, well, then he's got to be doing it so we would get aware, but pretty soon you come to certain conclusions. Maybe boss man is so slow and he studies other people that he think that will wear down the people there. We'll wear them down. We wore everybody else. They look at their patterns and what have you, and they think, well, we'll just wear them down. We'll just repeat the same thing over and over again where they can't see no way out. We're going to surround them, and they're going to know we're going to surround them and encircle and suppress their behavior from now on. So when they do that, they think that the people, most people just sit there and say, well, I'm a goner, you know. But if you have another mind, you begin to think of ways to deal with that. Oh, boss man got 24/7, okay, that's fine. We'll give him 24/7, you know, and we'll develop a pattern of behavior that's going to whip the stew out of him or the system. So, now that's something that's very important about this is attitude. Attitude is it's the way you're leaning in accord with the horizon. That's what attitude and aeronautics all that. But also mentally, attitude is which way you're leaning in accord with the horizon. If you lean that way, you're against that, and so they call it a bad attitude, you know, and a good attitude. Well, if eventually you find out there are certain secrets for what the system calls success. If there's any main thing, the main thing is always maintain your independence and never allow the system or them to run your business. And no matter how much of it is, at the beginning of any struggle, you're not going to be in total charge of your life. In fact, dealing with the system, you probably never will be in total charge, but you get a higher and higher percentage. And so, a lot of that can come with just you adjusting your behavior to what they think about you, or what you think they think about you. And you can test them, you know, if you got all the time in the world, which we don't. We have maybe another 10, 20 years, maybe 2 or 3, maybe next week, you never know. But you have to, or you should ask Allah for certain things, but not be, I have to have that, like longevity. Longevity is very important. But if you're going to ask Allah for longevity, that don't mean that you're going to sacrifice your dignity. You know what I mean? I'm not going longevity, I'm not going to do anything specific to try to live a long time. If somebody get out of line, I'm going to deal with them according to what the environmental circumstances call for. But if other things happen, if, in other words, you can draw the enemy into what the enemy thinks about you. They think a certain type of people, in order to get to where they got, they have to have a certain mentality. If they look at some of our great leaders, they say in order for them to be who they are, they have to have a good self-image of themselves, you know. And self-image is related to a certain type of pride, a certain type of excellence, and a certain attitude that some people have. It's good in general, but it's deadly in other ways. Ego is it's good. Ego defends yourself. If somebody challenges you, you know, your ego is what defends you. That I am somebody, I equal to something, and I'm not putting up with that. To make a long story short, one of our people who we know who we're talking about, with the things that they had been through in life, that they would have a healthy self-image. You know, I am somebody, I am da-da-da-da-da. You know, it's just this self-talk, you know. And when you talk to yourself, you are, it's what you talk to yourself about, that's who you are, or who you become. Or you can tell yourself things long enough that's not actually correct, but it can improve your personality, your behavior, and how you see yourself. To get to the meat of this, if certain people have maintained a certain attitude, they think other people like that would maintain the same attitude. Therefore, if they had put a certain amount of, you know, when you're fishing, if you put this wiggler thing, it'll catch almost any fish, right? So they throw their thing out, and it catches, you know, one of the biggest fish in the pond. So we do that same, put the same thing, only all the same kind of fish, right? So they niggas, so, and it goes by and they don't bite it at all. In fact, they almost go the other way, you know. What does that mean? They throw that ego out. They throw that I am somebody, that self-esteem, which of course black people have been working at for 1,000 years to try to rebuild after it's been destroyed, right? So any one of them that are at a certain level would automatically have an abundance of self-esteem. I am somebody. I am da-da-da-da-da, you know. And so after you do that so long, they're going to begin to use things that becomes a trap to them. They say, well, we'll trap them that way. We'll say, we'll use that counter self-esteem, that you ain't nobody. You ain't nothing. And I'm going to show you by doing this to you. And if they're not experienced, they'll get trapped by it. Other people, their self-esteem and all that may be so intact that you can't get them with that. But they might think if we attack, if we physically assault these people and technically brutalize them, then that's going to get them, because that's humiliating. And I remember something like that happened to a friend of mine, and he popped up and said, that's just what I've been shooting for all the time. In other words, it's brother right and it's brother bad. That's exactly what he wanted. And everybody was in on it. He had friends overseas, and he told them, yeah, certain thing happening. You know, it was on Mark Bar America Day, November the 4th. We'll tell you about it when you get here. I never got there, and they passed away, but who cares? Number one is, there has been perfect harmony, perfect coordination between the United States of America and the Muslims there, the Negro Muslims, all of them, the Negroes here, South Africa, and the Negroes there, Sri Lanka, and the people there, Iran, and the people there, all around the United States, the various Arab and African places that you might go. The majority of people was on the same team, boss man's team. Now, if that was new, it would kind of make you despondent. But if you know that's the way it is, then the question, how to manipulate that environment, you know, to get what's good for the movement. That's called sacrifice. That means when you throw your desire, your ego, and all that out the window, and it's not you, it's the movement, it's humanity. And when you look at the psychosis that's infected, this is a real deep time in history, because this stuff is exploding. Everything that you talk about or think about, it happens the next day, or is right now, it's a big deal. But I want to say this. All of the people involved know who we are. And all the people that are rising in ascendancy, if you look at some of our home folks, soon as they go out of office and certain other people come in, all of a sudden, people start disappearing. It don't have nothing to do with it, I'm just saying, they do. And not with a nice fanfare exit. Oh, I'm sorry, that starts happening. That is a real response to life. And then the other thing is, the people involved. See, if you notice, one of the lectures we had was from Stalingrad to Oakland. To most people, that's not a message. But for the people that are in and around Stalingrad, and they know what it's about. And when they celebrate that era, that period, and they know you ain't talking about VG Day and all that dumb stuff and what was it, the longest day, Normandy and all of that, beachhead, and you're talking about Stalingrad. And when you put it in perspective, they may send Negroes here to mention about it or pay like they read about it. They hadn't read about it until somebody told them to study about it. You know, you could tell, hey, niggas don't know nothing about no Stalingrad. Hey, they ain't taught them. And if the boss man didn't teach them, they don't know it. You can believe that. They study for tests. They don't study for knowledge, and, you know, like to know and to love the warmth of knowledge. They don't do that. They study for the test. What's going to be on the test? And they cram for it, and then they forget it. So when some people hear you from as far as you can, anybody can remember, you're teaching on Stalingrad and what it was. And their whole life is centered, the modern life is centered around that. And not one single American, they think all the people died in World War II was all Americans and stuff like that. And you tell them, no. It was 27 or 28 million people you never heard about that won the war. 5 out of 6 people, Germans killed in the war, was on the Russian front. They would tell you, if you get out, keep getting out of line, we're sending you to the Eastern Front. My God, the Russians? Okay. You don't have to, the people that are involved in that, they know. When that nigga's talking like that about us and nobody else even knows about it, that's our homeboy. That's a signal that whatever is going on, we with you, nigga. We with you. Don't worry about all that other stuff. Don't worry, we're not gonna carry no flag that have niggas and Russians holding hands and all that. We don't do that stuff, right? Okay. But that reality is there. We've been talking about the Long March.